What greeted my eyes on the screen made my stomach churn. 2 semi-nude pictures of Alice stared back at me, her pose confident and alluring. But what truly rattled me was the state of the conversation. Almost everything else had been deleted. The only remnants were these 2 photos, leaving a gaping void where words should have been. It wasn't just the pictures, it was the effort to hide whatever they had been discussing that sent a cold shiver down my spine. My mind raced. Why would Steve delete their messages? What were they talking about that he didn't want me to see? Questions buzzed like angry bees in my head, and before I could think further, I heard movement behind me. I turned to see Steve standing in the doorway, his eyes blazing as he realized what I held in my hands. "What are you doing with my phone?" he demanded, his voice sharp and unsteady. "I could ask you the same thing about these pictures," I replied, my voice trembling but defiant. Steve lunged forward, snatching the phone from my grasp. "You had no right to go through my private messages, Becky." "Private?" I shot back. "We're married, Steve. Since when do we have secrets from each other?" His jaw tightened, and for a moment, he looked as though he wanted to say something, but thought better of it. Without another word, he stormed out of the room, leaving me alone with my swirling thoughts and a gaping hole in my chest. I wanted answers, but Steve's anger only fueled my determination. Something was going on, and I wasn't about to back down. A few days later, Steve delivered another blow. While I was at work, he called to tell me that our annual holiday getaway, a cherished tradition we'd kept for years, was cancelled. "I'm swamped with work," he claimed. "I won't be able to finish everything in time." His excuse felt hollow, especially considering how much he'd looked forward to these trips in the past. This wasn't the Steve I knew, the man who loved planning surprises and making memories together. Something had changed, and Alice seemed to be at the center of it all. Steve began missing dinners more often, coming home late with vague excuses about long hours at the office. One Saturday morning, the tension reached a boiling point. There was a knock at our door, and when I opened it, Alice stood there, her smile as bright as the morning sun. "Is Steve home?" "I need his help with a plumbing issue," she said casually. I froze. "A plumber might be a better option," I suggested, unable to keep the edge out of my voice. "Oh, it's just a small thing," she replied breezily. "Steve's so handy, I thought he could take a quick look." Steve appeared behind me, pulling on his shoes. "I'll go check it out," he said, already halfway out the door. "Since when are you a handyman?" I asked, incredulous. Steve had always called for professionals when anything needed fixing at home. But now, he was practically sprinting to Alice's flat like an eager schoolboy. "Becky, it'll only take a minute," he said dismissively. I watched as the door closed behind them, a mix of anger and heartbreak rising in my chest. It was becoming harder to ignore the glaring cracks in our relationship, and I knew that if I didn't uncover the truth soon, those cracks would shatter everything we'd built together.